yeah, building code, all those kind of departments. Our goal and the work we did was to bring together experts like Brock or Laura Allen from Greywater Action, and a host of other people that a lot of you, I'm sure, would know and are probably come in and off of these calls. We kind of set them up to be to present to people in these agencies so that there could be a mashup of the people that knew with the people that needed to know. And we were just the facilitating organization. Rick, I wonder if you could silence yours. Thanks. Since then, a lot of things have happened. We went through a period where we were doing art shows about the watersheds. That's when we really started to talk to the public a lot more, as opposed to the decision makers in the state. That was just like a natural evolution that the river sort of demanded of us at one point, was to have a lot of art come out, specifically about the Tuolumne River. And then we really moved into a phase where we decided that the best way to get people to focus on water conservation and water reuse was to get them in tune with their watershed ecosystems. Because what we started to realize was, of course, as a lot of you are aware, people don't know what a watershed is. Nobody knows that wherever they are, they're in a watershed. You know, they don't know how old water on the planet is. They don't know the name of the water or the source of the water coming out of their taps. We're super disconnected from our watershed ecosystems that are the survival of this planet. And so realizing that, I was like, you can tell people all you want to save water. You know, I'm in California. I should have introduced myself and said I'm in Oakland, California, in the Lijon Ohlone lands. And so you can tell people all you want, like the flashing lights here on the highways in California, save water. They don't even know really what that water, it's just like a general substance. Whereas water's got lots of stories, and you guys know all of that. So here's what we're doing right now. We decided during COVID, like many of us, brought us way down to the local, right? Because that's as far as you could go. You know, in California, I think we had like I forget, you know, like a 45-mile limit at one point that the counties were suggesting, something like that. I can't even remember. Okay, so what did Holy H2O decide to do during that time? We were doing completely other things, bio blitzes, a lot of citizen science work, getting people out in watersheds to document flora and fauna, which we had to quit doing as bio blitzes, as group events. And so one of the things that had been cooking in the background for a while with some other partners was this idea of doing these watershed tours. Wouldn't it be great one day if we could capture the history, the flora and the fauna and the different watersheds and tell stories? Because, you know, I'm in the East Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area. Every 2 miles, there's another watershed. You know, there's tons of little watersheds. And the truth is, now I know, well, I didn't even know. I live over Derby Creek. I was even running Holy H2O and didn't know that for a number of years, until a tree in my backyard, a willow tree, grew to 65 feet and I never watered it. And I was like, well, that water's coming from somewhere. And so I looked at some watershed maps, and there, lo and behold, I'm over Derby Creek. Okay, so all of these things combine together and tell me we need to talk about watersheds. And we're, you know, you can't really go very far right now. So let's look at our local watersheds. And that's what we started to do. And with a number of partners, we launched a kind of a 2-part project. And I'll show you the different parts of it. If it's okay, I'm going to share my screen. Oh, Alpha will let me in a sec.
Alpha's going to have to give you permission.
Yeah, he's working on it. I can see that. So I'll show you the two different parts of what we're doing. Thanks a lot. No, you're sharing your screen. Okay. Oh, not yet. I still can't do it. So I'll show you in a minute.
Let's pause you for a minute. Alpha.
Okay.
Out there, share screen says multiple participants can share. You have that?
He's talking, we're talking, but we can't hear you.
Oh, okay. So now I have multiple
Got it.
sharing.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So we decided to launch this program called Walking Waterhoods. I assume, but maybe I shouldn't, that you guys know the organization Walking Water, Kate Bunny. So we, took this name from Walking Water and turned it into Walking Waterhoods. And not took it, we talked to them first and everything. we slaughtered them all over there and stole their name. And so what we do is we talk about waterhoods, watershed neighborhoods. What we're trying to do is get people to think about the flora and fauna and the entire watershed as their neighborhood. So what are your neighbors, the gopher snakes doing? What are your neighbors in my neighborhood, for instance, the blue herons doing? Or we've got all sorts of birds right around where I live. So what are all these guys doing? What do they have for dinner? Where do they sleep at night? All these different things, like your neighbors, at least I in my neighborhood know a lot about my neighbors because we're all buddies. And so that these folks out into their watersheds. And so we created tours online using and I'll show them to you in a second, but I just wanted to show that and we built these overview pages for each watershed so that in addition to what you'll see online, it's going really slowly. In addition to what you'll see online, you'll also get these background pages that have history and all sorts of other stuff. Okay, so here you see all the different, and there should be more info. Oh, did he take it off? Okay, sorry, there should be. Looks like my web designer did some magic there. Okay, so let me show you the actual tours. Here we are on Pocket Sites, which is the app that we use. And this is an app, it's not really meant to be done on a desktop, although you can certainly do that, or a laptop. We use the app to do it. But here it is on our desktop, and I'll just show you one of the tours, Lake Temescal. So each creek is 8 to 10 miles long. And what we said is, okay, if teachers are going to assign this creek to students in a class, then 1 mile, 1.5 miles, but the creeks are 8 to 10 miles. So we decided to break all the creeks up into walkable sections, which cool, that meant each of these sections could have a whole bunch of points of interest. So rather than having one big long tour that has like 20 points of interest, which a lot of these tours do, we have smaller tours of 1 mile, and you'll see, except for my internet is unstable, that we've got all of these different stops in one tour. I think it goes up to like 35 or more. Wow, a lot on this tour. And what are we talking about? Well, first and foremost, what we're trying to get forward are the BIPOC histories of the East Bay, because Oakland, Berkeley are highly diverse. I think Oakland is the most diverse city in the United States. Okay, I am not going to present kids in Oakland with a history of white people, which is primarily what is already known. And so I've just hired 2 researchers to do histories of BIPOC histories in the East Bay. They'll be adding to this over time. as they just got started. But in the meantime, we've added what we can. We've added in the Chinese. Here were the China who built the dam. Well, okay, we can talk about the white guy who built the dam, who in fact is very interesting, because he's the same person who developed hydraulic mining in the Sierra, and he used this same technique here. But who actually built the dam? Chinese workers. So then we get to talk about the Chinese workers, and we've got images that people have drawn of what those camps looked like at one time. So we're trying to put forward both these histories as well as getting people to know the flora and fauna. We have interns, we're really lucky. I have a slew of interns that come to me through a volunteer match, but we also have we partner with the University of California. And I'm telling you this stuff because it helps to know all sorts of different resources. We're a tiny organization. You know, we are not highly funded. I mean, tiny in terms of funding, although this year that's really starting to change around. But so who is my workforce? I've had to be really creative. Volunteer Match has been one of my workforces. I've partnered with UC Berkeley with an environmental science and policy management, and I get upwards of 17 interns a semester from that class who do a lot of the research for this. They're out there walking the watershed. They're noticing what might be points of interest. If they can't find all the things they're looking for, they go to iNaturalist. In case you guys don't know, iNaturalist, amazing resource of what's living in every watershed all over the world. And it's not necessarily done by Watershed. I personally set up projects on iNaturalist for the various East Bay watersheds. So if you live in the East Bay or you're interested in that, or if you want to learn how to do that, I'm happy to walk you through the steps. I want to do that for my watershed. I don't know how to do that on iNaturalist. Give me a call. I'm happy to help because I've done this a bunch of times now. And iNaturalist is just an invaluable tool for learning what's in your watershed. And then I've gotten these interns to build curriculum assistant, not a full-on curriculum because that's not my specialty and I can't become that organization today. But they provide a lot of background information on each point of interest for a teacher who wants to teach. Okay, so the teacher can either take their kids out into a watershed because we're tagging schools that are very close to the watersheds. So do a walk right by your school, or you get the kids to walk it on their own, or you walk it in class online, or you assign the kids to walk it online. It's very flexible tool. I just walked a part of the tour yesterday. I walk it every week with my tour manager because we check out the tours. Then it's also set up so that people can contribute content because we want to make this more of a people's tour. And we're getting the tour, the web company, Pocket Sites, to add additional capabilities over time. They've been building out a lot of their stuff because we're asking for it, which is cool. And that's benefiting other people taking these tours. And then the other thing we do, or that we did especially during COVID, was we did live streams at crucial points in the watersheds that we're covering. And we did these with watershed experts, like at the headwaters of Strawberry Creek. We did a walk with Karina Gould from Segurite Land Trust, and with Friends of Five Creeks, Susan Schwartz, and with David Helvard. You know, we assemble experts. And what we found out in doing this, Alpha, you might want to silence somebody. I can hear somebody in the background.
I'm not sure who's. Could everyone please mute?
That's Gila family. Can you maybe mute? Thank you. And so what we found was that a lot of the people that had the most knowledge about these watersheds started their work in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And that a lot of those people are either dying or getting so ill that they can't really communicate their wealth of knowledge anymore. So now what we've transitioned to is doing produce, since we don't have to come up with instant content for lockdown anymore, is now we're doing produced videos with experts in these various parts of the watershed. So those are the two parts that we're meshing together. And then again, now we're out again. So we are doing bioblitzes in these watersheds, and we're doing walks ourselves in these watersheds. So you'll be able to walk the mouth of Temescal Creek, which is now Bay Street in Emeryville, with us in November. We'll be doing that walk. We'll be walking part of Saucil Creek ourselves in October. So we're just doing everything we can to get people's both heads and literally their eyes and their hands into their watersheds. And we're doing it from a storytelling as opposed to, and we do, of course, collect trash. We've got a, I say that as if it's nothing. We're doing like a trash, a beach cleanup this weekend at Albany Bulb, which is one of our big sites with a whole bunch of partners. But so that's what we're doing in order to get the stories of the watersheds across. And these BIPOC researchers will be going out and literally getting out into the watersheds and interviewing people, particularly African-American, Chinese, Japanese, and Latinx folks about the history of the watersheds and their own family histories in those watersheds. So that's kind of what we've been up to. And I appreciate Alpha for asking me to speak and let you guys know what we're up to.
Cool. Thank you very much. And thanks for all your work doing, inspiring these watersheds. So what we're going to do now is actually break off people, and maybe we can do a little bit of storytelling around our watersheds, and then we could kind of come back and see what we came up with.
Before we do that, Alpha, can we maybe just acknowledge people that have come in a little bit late? I know we have Zach Weiss here. Welcome, Zach, and Ajay. So when you get into your breakout groups, be sure to introduce yourself and just let some people know. Isaac, Carrie, everybody welcome. Forrest, very happy you're here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. So let's figure out this quickly. Just we want to organize maybe people just a little bit according to some kind of bioregion. So I think we had some Canadians and some people in the Pacific Northwest, some people in California. I think we had some East Coasters. Are there people from other areas? Like what were any other areas? If people could put in the chat.
Alpha, you can just name an area and people can raise their hands, and then that will be an easy way for you to put people into groups.
Yeah, and you can't lump Canadians together because East Coast and West Coast are completely different ecosystems.
Okay, well, we're just going to do it very generally. Depends on how many areas. Okay, so is it better to lump the East Coast Canadians or the East Coast US? Is that better then?
Yes.
Okay, so so let's do a raise a hand. Who's in the southwest part of the US? You can click, there's a little hand button in the reactions that you can click raise hand. Let's just see a show of hands. Carrie, me.
Where?
Southwest, like California, New Mexico, Arizona, that kind of area. Paul and Ricardo, you're also California. You want to raise your hand? So okay, so so that's 4 of us. So I guess that's Southwest. And let's do the Oh, and Elizabeth too, right? And then let's do the Northwest US, and I guess that would include British Columbia too. Okay, so we have Pamela, Jan, anyone else? Okay. And Nigel, you're in the, okay, so, okay, cool. And then let's do the Northeast area. That's Ananda, Peter, Josh. Ricardo, you can put your hand down now. Shane and Young Bo. And then what other areas do we have who haven't raised their hand? Like Rick and Brian and Russell and Isaac.
I'm in Australia, but I'm familiar with the West Coast watersheds.
Where? Northwest?
Southwest also.
Okay. Well, you can choose which one you want.
Yeah.
And if we have more other Australians, we can also do that one group. Who else? What other groups do we have? Who hasn't? Russell or Brian? Carrie? What?
I'm sorry, I just tuned in. So what was the question exactly?
Where are you?
I'm in Southern California.
Okay, so you can join the Southwest group. Any other people who want to speak up? Okay, let's create those groups and then how do I do it? So we do Southwest, Northwest, and East Coast. Was that the three groups? I guess we can do those three. So room one, let's see. So I'm going to create the rooms. You're going to be assigned to one of those rooms, but let's do room one is south. If everyone can remember, Southwest is room one, Northwest is room two, and East Coast is room three. So I'll just write that. And then if you find yourself in the wrong room, you can move there. So I'll just write it in the chat box. Northwest is room two, and East Coast is room three. Okay, so hopefully everyone understands that. I'm going to open all the rooms, and then if you're in the wrong room, just move yourself to the right room because it randomly assigned you at first. Okay, is this room one here, or is this the main room still?
No, you're in the main room actually.
Okay. How do I get to the breakout room? I'm a little.
Well, I'm on my iPad. I've never done it on iPad, and I'm trying to go to 3. I might need to go and sign on with my computer.
Does anyone here in the breakout in the main
Join
room?
breakout room. You must have see, it says like join breakout room, and it says you've been assigned to room 1. So you have to move me to room 3 because you've assigned me to room 1.
Oh, I see. Okay, so so I'm going to move everyone
to where they need to be. So Peter needs to be in room 3.
Okay, let's see. See how I do this.
You didn't set it up so that we can move ourselves.
How do I do that? Is there a way to do that? Do you know how to do that?
Yeah, when you create the rooms, but now you've created them, don't not create them. Just send me to room 3 and just send people where they need to go.
Okay, so you're.
If he can.
If you can, you should be able to do that. Yeah, you should be able to click on the name as if you're the organ.
Okay.
There you go. Thank you.
All right. So there, Young Bo was room 3, right? Yeah, there we go.
Carrie, Dr. Brian, and I need to go to the Pacific Northwest room.
Hang on a sec.
waiting for room 1 southwest.
Or southwest, sorry, for you.
Yeah.
Carrie and I need to go.
And Russell.
And Russell.
Brian, okay, so Brian is which room?
Oh, what's up, Alpha? You wanted me to come back?
Room
Uh,
1 alpha.
I'm sorry, what? Who are you?
Room-
Brian, okay, what room you're supposed to be in 1, I guess. Okay, cool. Pamela should be room 2.
Did you want me to come back to help, or was there a reason?
No, you're just in room 1.
Okay, I'll go back then.
Paul needs to go to room 1.
Who needs to? Paul.
Paul.
Okay, let's see. Okay. Jan is in the right room.
Thank you.
And then Carrie, Carrie, which room are you going to? 1? Carrie's going to room 1. Okay, let's move her to, well, she's already in 1, I think. Russell, are you in the right room? You need to go to 1.
No, I was in 3. I need to go to
Who was that? Was that Carrie?
Yeah,
Carrie.
I don't know how to move you to room 1. Oh. Okay, Russell.
What room's the Pacific Northwest?
That's room 2.
Okay. I'm sorry. I need to go to room 2.
Okay. Okay, I moved you to room 2. I don't see Russell. Where's Russell? Sorry about this. I somehow can't scroll down to your name, Russell. Okay, what room were you, Russell, again? Room 1. Okay.
I was in 3, but I need to get moved to room 1.
Okay, I got you in 1 now. Okay, and Courtney, what room are you supposed to be in?
3.
3, okay. Okay, got you.
Thanks.
And Carrie, what room are you supposed to be in?
I think she's supposed to be in 1.
Okay. I think, oh, she just didn't join. Okay. All right, cool. And Courtney, do you see how you can get to room 3?
Yes. Thank you.
Hey, Carrie. What's the .ai at the end of your thing mean? You're on mute. I don't know. How's that, Brian? Oh, you're on mute.
Well, yes, thank you.
Hello,
Hey,
Peter. I think we're
okay,
seeing for you the first time. Welcome.
cool. So yeah, let's have every room check in a little bit about what went on, so you can maybe share back to the group.
Yeah, I'll jump in for room one. We got a lot more information from Elizabeth. And very specifically about how we can start our own water tours in our neighborhoods, and then talking about connecting the Sacramento and in the California cohort. So
Cool. And are there specific advice on how you start your own walking tour?
she has the bio blitzes. And she
Yeah, I
described-
suggested that people start with bio blitzes and get to know their watershed intimately by documenting the flora and fauna. And that'll then lead you into having the knowledge to do tours. It's hard to do them without knowing them really well.
What's a BioBlitz?
So a BioBlitz is an event where for a designated period of time, 2 hours to 5 days to 2 weeks, whatever it is, where you get a group of people together to document either all the flora and fauna, or maybe you're just looking for flora, or maybe you're just looking for a specific plant, or maybe you want all the birds, or anything and everything that somebody can see. Like when we did it at Point Melati, or when we do it out there, there's no ecological record. So we're just trying to build it from start. And so you get people out there using an app called iNaturalist to document and build an ecological record over time and space in your watershed. And it's brilliant. Even if your watershed, like mine at Derby Creek, is all below ground but 40 feet, it's still a dang watershed. And so I still do a project there.
Okay, cool. Well, if people do BioBlitzes or walking tours of any of this sort, yeah, let us know at the Regenerative Water Alliance and the Watershed Wisdom Councils here. Yeah, it'd be cool to document. We can actually write it up in our newsletter. Actually, I'll put up the newsletter if you haven't signed up. So if you want to find out about our Regenerative Water Alliance and these Watershed Council meetings, you can sign up to this newsletter. It's on Substack, so that's the link. Hopefully we can get some of the stories of our watersheds, and put them in the newsletter too. Or if you want to make a little video, or do a BioBlitz list of your fauna and stuff. Cool. So let's ask the East Coast group. Do you want to check in about what went on in your group?
Well, yes, partly it was mostly narrowly focused on how do we get children, so especially at the school level, to start thinking about watersheds, say water system, where river comes from and such. And in fact, what Peter noted was how in England, they actually did it just by maps in the classrooms and sketching the various features and such. So that's one, and then ideally extend that to field trips, potentially actually even visiting maybe the source of a major river like the Thames if you're in England, or any of those places. That was pretty much what we covered.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, that sounds great to get the school kids mapping out. That sounds like a great exercise. And let's have a check-in from the Northwest group.
Okay, I'll just say quickly because I'm going to have to leave fairly soon. yeah, I had a few starts and stops with different people about their bioregions or their watersheds, but we finally got 4 people in the room and we talked about just each sharing a little bit about what was happening in our areas, what we're noticing in terms of changes, or what we're noticing in terms of how people were engaging, from doing some work party stuff to prevent flooding, to understanding the shift of water that heavy agriculture use did, to looking at what happens when there's too much forestry in an area and it creates a total change in the water, as well as the issue of forest fires that then becomes a whole cycle, to in minute understanding of what happens with the birds that flock in a certain area by a certain creek because there's cottonwood trees there, and the fact that an 11-year-old was the one that was teaching people about that. So there's some interesting pieces. If anything I left out, people please say.
The only thing I'd suggest, Jan, what I found really intriguing was you're tracking the pattern from the Southern California up north. I think it was, and how the increasing drought conditions have changed the nature of the forest itself and what it's sort of trending towards, and also, of course, related to fires and floods and that story. But the tracking of that progression along the coast is really striking the way you told it.
Oh, thank you. And just because I think just to wrap up that piece. So yeah, so I think you can check in on Elizabeth's website, which is Holy H2O, WHOLLY H2O.org, and you can find her YouTube videos of those different waterhood stories, and maybe there's some inspiration for you guys to do some of these stories around your neighborhood. And then we're going to have this again in a month. So this Watershed Wisdom Council will be every month, so in the middle of the month. And then the first Thursday of the month, there'll be the Regenerative Water Alliance, and there'll be different topics. So the upcoming one will be forests and water, and how the forests affect the water cycle. Cool. So now we're going to move on to Elizabeth Herold, and she's going to talk about a bit about the Watershed Wisdom Council concept, and also how we can map, kind of understand our watersheds by mapping their connections. So I'll hand it over to Elizabeth.
Thank you, Alpha. Yeah, so talking about watershed stories, I found myself living on the upper reaches of the South Yuba River, right off Eagle Lakes Road, where we say the Yuba sold the bear. So it used to be the Bear River going down towards Auburn, and must have been an earthquake or something, and the ridge collapsed. And so now the river turns 90 degrees and drops down 500 feet into the South Yuba River watershed. And we were right there. So it was a very dynamic piece of water. And the water began teaching me, sitting there every day, being able to go there every day, listen to the very intelligent river of the South Yuba. I began getting communication. You know, the willow tree spoke to Elizabeth, and the river was speaking directly to me. And I think the water speaks to us with every breath we take, and it's a matter of whether we're listening or not. And so I really started listening well, and began getting this realization that grew into an impulse, that grew into a realization, that grew into eventually actually a life mission and a passion and a imperative. And the more I see what's happening in the world today, the more I recognize how important this is, which is basically aligning ourselves as water protectors from where we live in our home watersheds, our water hoods, so to speak, into a globally networked system of human organizational development aligned with water as the source of life itself. And knowing that, remembering that we are in fact water, and that water is far more than we have any imagination to grasp. Over 50% of the water on Earth is older than the sun. We know that our bodies are 75 to 85% water by volume. But if you count the number of molecules within our bodies, it's 99% of the molecules in our body are water molecules. So you can't be 99% of anything without being that thing. So if we could just remember, in fact, that we are water, and all of life on Earth is basically the infinite creation of water expressing itself as life. If we could align with water to solve the crises that we as a human species have created here on Earth, then we have the greatest ally ever, because water wants us to thrive. So if we align with that life force that wishes us to thrive, then most of our problems are coming from the delusion of separation from this, and we will thrive. So this organizational blueprint follows that ethos and teaches us. So it's not like we know it all and we're going to teach it to others. We're all in this process of remembering who we are as a species on Earth. So and we're all in this together. So let's learn it together and actually learn how to work together to begin cherishing water as the source of life and the very reason for our existence. So it's a shift. And part of that shift is recognizing that we're running out of time, because the water balance on the planet is so severely out of whack. Being aware of looking what's happening in Pakistan with the glaciers collapsing. And now there's a lake in Pakistan, a flooded landscape 3 times the size of Portugal. And the catastrophe for this country, which is contributing 1% of the total amount of greenhouse gases, has now been devastated by this behavior. So and the Amazon rainforest is at 23% deforestation currently. And that is the point where an ecosystem begins to fall apart. And for the Amazon, it's becoming a savanna, and this is already in process. And if the Amazon collapses, then we are no longer living in a hospitable planet. So really recognizing that we have an imperative, but we also have the genius to turn the tipping point in the right direction. And so that's what the Watershed Wisdom Council concept is as a concept, and seeing this as a new paradigm human organizational model that we can build networks upon networks that are based upon this basic concept, that are all interconnected by a certain codification or mapping that allows us to see and give data points, that these bio blitzes, we begin to input this information, this data into this network of networks, and we're now suddenly able to recognize how well we're doing, where we need to improve. Really looking at as much of the Earth as we can censor to be able to apply our science and our hearts to affect change. And so one of the groups that we're forming this on is with the Regenerative Water Alliance on the Open Impact platform as partners in really creating the proof of concepts for how this works. The first proof of concept that we've committed to is the Sacramento, another one in Guinea, West Africa, and then the Amazon itself. The Sacramento is most developed in terms of activating the water stewards that are ready to start working to weave weave all of our field projects together, like, so we can really begin to see who's doing what where and how is it working and what needs to, how can we be adjusted, and if something like the Delta Tunnel wants to start activating its destruction and stealing the rest of Northern California's water, we can also be organizing as a political force that says, no, that's not okay. You don't have our permission to do that. So it's very simply water stewards in their own community, but on a bigger scale and the bigger picture, it's really connecting water protectors and water stewards all across the planet. So both sort of community-wise social organizing, but also actual tangible field projects, making the changes, the regenerative projects that we need to institute in a very rapid immune response for the planetary body. And so basically I've put an invitation there, and the top one is it's the Watershed Wisdom Council concept that takes you to a shared folder on my Google Drive that you can get the very basics, and then come back next month and we can talk more about actually the process of creating water councils in your own community and then linking them to this network. The lower is there's two there. You can see they're kind of blurred together, but the first one is to actually get you into the open impact platform, signing up, and then the lower one is the will take you to the Regenerative Water Alliance, so you join us there, and that's sort of our community commons where we're going to be starting from. So this is a completely emerging network and system of organization, but it's been basically 12 years in the making. So we're ready to really start bringing people in and getting them to find their own watersheds. So from this Regenerative Water Alliance group, we will then start the California cohort. We'll basically start two groups, the California cohort, which runs across watersheds and can include anybody that is part of the California water system, that their water flows into the Pacific Northeast quadrant of the one planetary ocean. And then the other one will be specifically the Sacramento, which is a watershed council system that follows from the headwaters to the ocean along the watershed. So there's right now currently the cohorts and the watershed catchments, which are specific along the watersheds. And you can join as many as you have capacity for. They'll start activating when champions step up and say, I'm ready to stand in my watershed, for my watershed, care for my watershed, and cherish my watershed. And then we will activate your branch, particular branch, from source to sea, and connect you with other groups working in your region. So that's pretty much my long elevator pitch. And Alpha, do you want to break it into breakout groups or have a little question answer before we do?
Yeah, we could break out into some different groups around different issues around our watershed that we're interested in now. So, so there could be, say, are you interested in hydrating your watershed to protect against fire, or do you have flood issues, or do you want to store the creek, or is there cleanliness water issues? So we're gonna just have maybe 3 suggestions of topics, and then we can go into those breakout groups that's in your watershed. So do people have, if you want to raise your hand, of suggestions of different topics we can discuss, or people might be interested in discussing?
Certainly the drought flood cycle. Wildfires.
Okay, we could have the wildfire issue. Any other issues people are interested in? Or it could be the issue of, it could be like, how do you actually
Well, maybe
tell
we
the
should
story of your
even
water
check with people and see if we want to go, like my thought was to have people go back to their same groups, because everybody was getting very connected within their region, and just to go back to those same groups, and then we can identify.
Okay, yeah,
the
let's go do that.
topics.
Yeah, so maybe you can clarify a little, share a little bit more about the stories of your watershed in your group. So, so let's do the same. Let's do the same groups then. Let's see. So we're gonna have. Oh, it looks like we have some new people who are joining us too. Cindy, Nick, and Lee. So we split everyone off into. Let's see. I think some of the Northwest people disappeared. So we have the East and the West Coast. And Cindy and Lee, where are you guys coming from?
I'm coming from Southern California, so definitely interested in the drought, flood, mudslide, holding water on the land, anything like that.
Okay, cool. And then Lee, where are you?
That was Lee, just
talking. Oh, that was Lee. Okay, Cindy?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna split everyone into those groups again. And I also have a question. How do I put myself in the group? Does anyone know?
I think you just go to the list and join one, but then we do kind of need
Or,
somebody. to
or as
stay.
moderator, you could just go to whatever room you want, and you can skip around to different rooms and stay in the room you want.
I couldn't find a button to click on that though.
You may, as the host, you may have to stay in the main room.
Oh, really?
No, I think you shouldn't need to. You should be able to go into a breakout room and
Just when the breakout room list, you'll see the word join, and you just hit join. And yeah, just watch the main room. Just watch the breakout room window to make sure that people aren't jumping into the main session newly.
Okay. All right. So room 1 will be West Coast, and room 2 will be East Coast. And this time I let participants choose which room. So you can, so if you're East Coast, just choose room 2. Okay, so I'll set it up now.
Yeah, I think allowing people to choose their own rooms is a good idea. Easier.
Okay. So does everyone see where you can do it?
Yeah. There we go.
I know, I don't see where to do that.
Who's speaking?
It looks at the bottom, there's a breakout room button that just showed up. So maybe if you click on that. Which one is California, room 1 or 2?
Room 1, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Shane, I can assign you. Where are you? Are you East Coast?
East Coast, yeah.
Okay, I'll assign you.
Yeah,
to room
and I see this. Oh, there's the breakout room. Got it.
Ricardo, I'll assign you to room 1.
I don't see a button to choose.
Okay, I'll assign you. There you go. Brian, you were room 1, right? I think I remember. Yeah. Brian, did you need to be assigned? Okay, is everyone back? Okay, welcome back. And I think, as I was saying in the group, there's a lot of really interesting people in this group. So you can put your emails in the chat. I think that people may want to contact you, and also your website if you're doing something water related. And then everyone, there's those 3 buttons at the bottom right-hand corner that you can click on that saves the chat. And so if people, so just put your email in the chat box. So some of the people on this call can also connect with you. And then, let's have a quick just check in. Like, how was the East Coast group? What were you guys discussing there?
We ended up talking about creeks as something that people can relate to on a very personal level, a lot easier than they can relate to a river. I mean, it's like you can walk in a creek, you can listen to a creek, you can experience it, and if we don't address the creeks, then we're not going to solve the problems that we have with the rivers. That's, it's all a living system, and it's got to be recognized as such.
That's important, Josh. that's an important point. And Angelina and I were talking about, the difference between sort of grassroots organizing and the state agencies and trying to affect change at the higher levels. And I would say, in terms of a top level down as opposed to the grassroots up, but I would almost offer that the individuals, to me, I see are the springs and the creeks at the top of the watershed. So I would say we're actually at the top.
Oh, someone from the West Coast group want to check in about what we discussed in that group?
Who wants to jump in from the West Coast?
I'll jump in since I brought up a topic that a lot of people started talking about. That's just in our area. We're agricultural, and water cutbacks are starting to really economically impinge. Wells are starting to go dry, especially residential wells that weren't dug that deep, as the agricultural wells are dug deeper, and it's starting to bite. So people are starting to pay attention.
Cool, thank you. Cool, so that about wraps up today. So so basically, if you want to find out our future Regenerative Water Alliance events and Watershed Wisdom Council events, you can go to our Substack newsletter, regenerativewater.substack.com. And the Regenerative Water Alliance is on the 1st of the month, and Watershed Wisdom Council is in the middle of the month. So any closing words from anyone? I want to share how today's meeting was or anything.
I would offer, Alpha, is that if anybody has expertise and would like to come onto either one of those calls, just drop us a line and we'll get a schedule going.
Cool, yeah, and if you have interesting articles or just information about your watershed or water issues or your thoughts about something, like we can put the little snippets in our or your essay in our Regenerative Water newsletter, or we're welcome to, if you're interested, we could put a link to your info too. So cool.
Thanks.
Well, yeah, thank you everyone for being on this call.
Yeah.
Thanks to our speakers as well.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all for coming.
Really appreciate your work. I want to see what. I'm looking forward to looking into it more. Thanks.
Okay, cool. Is that Shane speaking?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great. How did you find out about us?
Sorry?
How did you find out about this call?
Oh, through Earth Regenerators and Joe Brewer's the group that's kind of connected with Barichara there.
Oh, cool. Nice. I just came from Barichara.
Wicked.
Yeah. Are you? So I started a group in Earth Regenerators called Regenerative Water. Are you on that group?
I don't know if I am as yet.
Okay. Well, I can invite you on that group if you want.
Yeah, I feel like I've been dabbling around it a little bit, and I find like the water is really appealing to me, and just in terms of it